Hey guys, welcome to The Creative Entrepreneur, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about building a photography business on a budget. You don't want to miss this episode because we got a great guest, so stay tuned.
Coming to you from San Antonio, Texas, welcome to The Creative Entrepreneur, a podcast created to help entrepreneurs build their business. Branding, marketing, analytics, positioning, and lead generation, plus interviews with other business owners to learn from their successes and failures. Now, here is your host, Abel Garza.
Welcome back to The Creative Entrepreneur, and today we have a special guest, Rafal Wegiel. So I'm really excited to have him on the show today because we're going to be discussing photography on a budget. Yes, you don't have to go out and buy expensive equipment. You can produce quality, high production photos on a budget. And so Rafal Wegiel has managed to do that. He is one of the leading photographers in Canada, and I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Please help me welcome Rafal Wegiel. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. It's good to have you on the show, man. I love your photography. I've been a big fan for a long time. Obviously, I did your class. And so
yes.
How are you doing? How's Calgary? Calgary, is it cold?
I'm doing great. I'm actually weather-wise it's pretty bad in Calgary. We have already winter. So we got a lot of snow and the temperatures dropped quite a bit. So, you know, it's not nice to shoot headshots outside. I'll tell you that part. But,
no doubt. You know what? In San Antonio, when it's 100 degrees in July, I'm thinking the exact same thing. So everybody wants to know, what is a value bomb that you can give some of our customers? I know that you're in photography. You're focused on headshots, and you're taking headshots to a totally different level. For one, I've noticed that you've been doing it on a budget. And a lot of people that I know, they kind of seem put off by that because they're like, no, we need the latest and greatest technology. We need the best cameras. But, you know, you work with a D800, a Nikon D800,
That's
and
correct.
speed lights. And that is all you need. That's perfect because it's budget oriented, especially for photography, because it's an expensive it's an expensive career, for one, but you have been able to take these phenomenal pictures with these, just basic necessities. What value bomb can you give us? What advice can you give our listeners on business?
So let's kind of go back with the equipment first, because I think this is the biggest thing nowadays when it comes to, all those needs and everything. What photographers or people who are getting into this industry, they think that the gear is one of the most important things when it comes to photography and basically just running the business. But I think personally that, photography can be very expensive if you want to be expensive, and you just shift your focus on equipment. And I think I had some kind of like breaking point in my life where, my focus was 100% on the equipment, and I was just buying everything what I could. I was always not happy with the results. I will always have this mindset that if I'm going to get better, I would say equipment and gear, my photography going to get better. And this is like the biggest myth, in my opinion, in photography, that, you need to have this high-end stuff to produce great images. I deeply believe that you can really work on the budget. You really don't need, I would say, crazy and then super expensive equipment. I think when you shift your mindset into, I would say, being creative and using what you have and trying to kind of limit yourself with, some of those things, then I would say those creative juices start flowing. And then when you can actually start creating something which is interesting, something which is, I would say, different. So I deeply believe this is a mindset. Depends how you approach this whole thing, and depends how you actually see, this entire thing. That's the outcome you're gonna get. So that would be just kind of my simple advice. So all those people who are, I would say, saving the money for Black Friday to get the stuff, I would suggest, drop this, use what you have. And also what I would say is focus a little bit more on education, on learning how to shoot, learning about the light, learning about, all those different aspects of photography. This is what's going to take your photography to another level, not the gear. But again, I don't want to go against those, big corporations and big companies, because, we're living in a world where we're getting bombarded on a daily basis, from different types of advertising, that if you get this, your photography is going to get better, or you buy this lens, this is not true. I think that we reached a level nowadays where the equipment it's so good, and it's still, in my opinion, fairly affordable if you're not gonna go this high end stuff, that you can get on very, very low price equipment, which allows you to basically shoot anything what you want nowadays.
Exactly. Utilizing the resources that you have available to you is paramount in developing. What is great about it is that it helps you think outside the box.
Absolutely.
And so you have a certain amount of resources that you have available to you. I always say utilize the resources that are available to you to the extent of as much as you can for as long as you can until you can't anymore. And so you're talking about utilizing the resources, you're being frugal, people are thinking outside the box, educating other people, educating yourself. I was doing that for a while. I'd get up in the morning and I just, for an hour a day, just boom, 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 hit education, take an hour, get on YouTube, take a course, do something like that just to better myself.
Yes. But also what I would like to add to this, the education, don't focus only on photography itself. Try to study history of art, try to study, face expressions, try to study body language, try to study things which you can implement into your photography, but they're not directly, photography stuff. And that's what's going to open your mind a little bit about different things, because photography, in my opinion, is a very complex thing, and you have to start having this jigsaw puzzle, which you're putting together to get this big picture. And I think that's what is extremely important, and that's what changed my photography, was that I started actually looking into different industry and try to take them and see what it's there to use them in my basically craft and in my photography.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're getting so big right now. I think I'm surprised people or companies aren't throwing their equipment at you right now.
Well, maybe they know what I'm saying, and that's why they don't want to do that. And honestly, I'm not really interested into getting this high end stuff, because I know this is not going to take my photography to another level. On the top of that, I want to be true to my audience and to people, who following me, people who, I don't know, I'm trying to be example for them and have some kind of leadership. And my biggest message is focus again on photography and focus on things which makes you happy, makes you create something interesting. Don't kind of put yourself down because you don't have this camera, or you don't have this lens, or you don't have this or that, and you're just putting everything on hold for months or years because you feel you're limited. Like, nobody's limited nowadays, and everyone has access to, as I said, equipment which can create stunning images. You have to just shift your mind a little bit and start doing things, because that's, I think, what's another big of an issue, in my opinion, nowadays, that people talk, they have a lot of ideas, they have tons of things they would love to do, but they don't have guts to basically get this thing into action and start creating things. Because that's also what changed my life. Instead of bragging on what I could do, I started planning and executing photo shoots. If it worked, great. If it didn't work, then I've learned something from it.
Well,
right? That was the process.
Your approach is totally. I mean, yes, there are other photographers that do cinematic type headshots, but your approach is totally different. It's unique. It's great, and I think you're a leader in this industry. which is great because you're able to convey your theme, your headshot uniqueness to all these people. And just being a leader in the industry, it's a great opportunity for you to change the way people perceive how to do headshots, not only on a budget, but the creativity behind it as well. And so it's just an amazing opportunity for you to be able to go out there and educate other people utilizing the resources that you have available to you.
Yes.
And on a budget. I can't believe it. And you know what? I'm kind of waiting for Black Friday because I just want to know. But you know what? Just a side note, I had a little incident this past weekend where we went to the Luminaria here in San Antonio, and my camera tipped over and totally crushed my camera. So my D810 is dead. And so I ended up having to upgrade. And I was like, well, I might as well just get a different camera, or same Nikon, but somewhat of an upgrade. So I ended up getting like a D850, I think. Okay. And so now, I'm mourning, but still, there it is. So I wanted to know, is there anybody, I know you follow other photographers. I know you've gone to seminars for other photographers as well. Are there any photographers that have influenced you or given you some advice that is important to the trajectory of your career?
Mm-hmm. So, one of the biggest inspiration was it's been Dylan Patrick. Like, he's one of the guys who definitely changed this industry. But the photography was the one thing, but the one thing would also really strike me, and I couldn't believe this is even happening. How nice he was and how responsive he was when it comes to basically asking him questions, or, if I had some concerns or I didn't understand something, he was always on the top of that, and he always responded, and he always was willing to help. So that was something which I've learned from him, because this is the kind of attitude I have nowadays, and this is what I'm trying to do. I know the audience is getting bigger and bigger, and this is really hard to follow up with everybody. But if there's people who are, they need some help or they need some hand, I'm always willing to help. And I think that was one of the kind of moments in my life where I've realized, we need to support each other. We need to help each other, because everyone is at a different level. Everyone has something kind of, as I said, different issues and different problems when it comes to, reaching certain goals. And he was the guy who started this whole thing, because I came from wedding industry, and it was really cutthroat industry that nobody would tell you anything. You would have to literally pay people to give you any kind of informations. So that was one of the things which I fall in love, not only with headshot, but also with his attitude to photography. So he was the first, I would say, person who really inspires me, and he inspires me till today. His headshots are on they're top notch, right? They're
on
so
a different
amazing.
level, definitely.
There's something which I wish he could do more. I know he went a little bit more towards architecture and stuff like that. But he was the first guy. Another guy which I really like is definitely Christian Webb. He's a New York photographer, stunning work. The other person which I really admire is Stephanie Gerard. She's from LA. Again, stunning work. She specializes in headshots, and then she creates stunning images. I really admire her work, and quite often picking what she does, because all those images they simply stunning. So those are, I would say, my top three choices when it comes to I know the list could be way longer. There's a lot of other photographers who they create some outstanding work for sure.
Definitely. Hey, have you considered creating a training video or webinar or anything like that?
So actually, I have right now I released the retouching video and retouching tutorial, which is available on my website. You can purchase it. I try to also drop the price so it's a little bit, I would say, affordable. So, people who are in this industry and they want to learn the retouching, because I deeply believe that retouching is a huge part of our business. And I know that a lot of people struggling with that. And at the same time, I'm working on separate video, which is business headshot photography. So I'm going to pretty much focus on basically educating people how to shoot business headshots. And then the reason I started with that is, because that's how we make a living, I would say, when it comes to the headshots, right? We need to do a lot of corporate stuff in order to basically pay the bills. And this is like the biggest, I would say, part of this industry. But also I'm going to be working on some creative headshots for people who want to take this to another level, or, try to challenge themselves into creating something, a little bit different.
So I'm curious to know, is your headshots, are they strictly for educational purposes, or do you actually get clients who are paying you for the headshot and
so I have both. So I divide this whole thing into kind of like two sections. One of them is pretty much just shooting paid jobs where I just do corporate stuff. I also started a little bit, I've noticed that my creative part, people are coming to me right now and they want to actually create creative headshots where we play with different backgrounds, with different makeup, with different styles and stuff like that. So it seems like there is some new, I would say, avenue in that market. Those things takes time, because this is one of the biggest questions I'm getting. Like, if you're doing those creative headshots, do people actually come and pay you for this? So I can tell you that they pay. I have clients, not as many as I would like to have. But again, people start asking. So that's kind of signal for me that, there is some potential. And then the second part is the business, the corporate stuff. I basically, follow their guidelines and their, requirements. And I don't post those much because I think, I'm not saying they're boring, but they're regular headshots. So in order to attract people, I'm trying to also focus on those creative headshots where they're a little bit more vibrant, they're a little bit more interesting. And that's, I think, what attracts people to my work, right? So that's kind of, I'm trying to separate those two and focus on, as I said, more creative stuff, because this is what's going to draw attention of my potential clients, right? And everyone is actually in this industry doing kind of the same thing, right? So kind of break into this market and be unique, be different. We need to start doing something different. But if I would just showcase only my business stuff or my corporate stuff, then it's harder to compete with much larger group. Not to mention, what I want to say is that a lot of my business headshots, people they don't want me to show them into the public, right? So they basically use them for themselves, and then I don't want to say I don't have rights, but they requesting not to basically pushing them for social media,
you
right?
You gotta have the opportunity to pay the bills, but also be unique and showcase the work of your creativity. Not to say that you can't be creative in corporate headshots, but they're pretty standard. There's very little to move on a corporate headshot, whereas you can get creative with makeup and backdrops or something like that. So there's a difference when you're paying the bills. Like when you do events, pretty much that pays the bills for me, or whenever I do events, that pays the bills for me. And headshots on the side for corporate, definitely. So when I do stuff like cosplay or when I can get creative, it's totally different because the theme is not very common. So it's great. So I want to ask you, through the course of your life, through the course of your career in photography or other, has there been a situation where the light just snaps, like you have this moment where you're like, wow,
Yes, I have several moments like that, and I think those things you have to build up towards to reach them. It's not something which just comes out of nowhere. You need to kind of work on something. And one of the things, and I just want to kind of step back and just talk a little bit about the images itself, because that's what kind of get me to this moment. I think all of us, we need to analyze our images, because we shot lots of images nowadays, but I don't think too many photographers, they just sit down and they look at those images, and if they like something, they try to ask themselves, okay, why do I like this image? What makes this image different, and what makes this image interesting? And I've been doing this religiously for all my photo shoots, and then I'm trying to analyze those images. And like you're starting kind of discovering those little, I would say, pieces which makes the headshot interesting. And again, I'm going to just kind of give like a general example, but that I think is going to be the best representation about how this moment came to my basically head. And I know it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people will realize when they hear this story. So most of us, we're focusing on lighting. We want to make sure that technical part of the images is, done correctly. And, we have all this settings and lights and everything. What we do is perfect. And then people think that we're going to get the best image. But what I found and what I've learned is the lighting is just the one part of it. For me, one of the biggest important aspects and important components of headshots is the face expression, and that's something which sells the image. That's something which makes the image interesting. That's what makes the image, gives you something where people are kind of like, wow, this is something amazing. And we don't sometimes understand what it is. As I said, we see this amazing face expressions and we don't really pay attention to all this lighting. So that's kind of came to my mind one day. And then when I started really focusing on, as I said, face expression throughout the shoots, the images got definitely way better. So those are one of the moments. The retouching would be another one where you're starting retouching images and you can take them to another level. This is another, I would say, important little aspect of photography. And then a lot of photographers nowadays, they're saying, well, I want to learn photography so that the images, they're going to be good straight out of camera. But we're living in the 21st century, right, where we have ability to take those images to another level, and we can definitely clean up the image to polish to the point where it has much bigger impact on the viewer. I could go on and on because those little moments were more and more, but those are, I think, the two which kind of changed my approach to photography, changed to what I do, and was like discovering, I would say, new world for me. So I felt like I can take those images to another level, and I have the recipe for it.
And so did Peter Hurley have anything to do with that? Because, he's all about the expression.
Yes. Well, sometimes, and this is what I said at the beginning, we hear those things and they're obvious. And this is not something which you need to be kind of discovered. But the thing is how we can implement them and how we can understand them from our owner's perspective. And the thing with Peter Hurley, he has different approach to pulling out of those face expressions. Like, he's got this very unique personality, and you're just looking at him and you just talk to him and then puts your smile on your face. But everyone is different, I found. Every photographer has different personality, have different approach, and we have to find kind of our own way to discover those things and how we can, with our personality and with our ability, to pull those things out of the client.
Yeah. Well, as a photographer, you steadily learn how to grab that emotion.
Yes.
It's as soon as you say something like, think about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, and they make that smile, and then you shoot, and so
yes.
you get that look that's original and sincere. What right now are you most fired about? What are you fired up about right now?
So there's a lot of things. I think one of the things which I'm super excited is that we can, like, sky is the limit when it comes to creating interesting headshots. We don't have to limit ourselves to, let's say, one setup or one background or one type of, I would say, face expression. We can really take this to another level. So I have a list of things which I'm trying to implement into my work, and pretty much trying to do new things, right? So this is something which excites me the most, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but at least I have some kind of idea which direction I can go. So I see a lot of potentials. The one thing what I'm kind of afraid is the timing, and we all kind of sacrifice the lack of time, and then we try to squeeze as much as we can during the day. But like I'm really into pushing those things further and further down to create more and more interesting stuff, and it's just basically my life
So
in and out.
being creative, it
Yes.
just catalyzes your motivation, getting out there and just
Absolutely.
being creative. Yeah, I totally get that. That's amazing. When you were starting in photography, was there anything that was holding you back, or did you just go ahead and say, I'm just going to jump in?
Well, photography was always my passion. Like since I would say since I was born. My dad, he used to be photographer, so that's how I actually got into this whole thing. It was different days and different times. And back in the days, we shot film, so we had to have dark room. We there's a lot of limitation, I would say. And well, basically, at the beginning is definitely the equipment, right? Like when you're starting off, a lot of people think that the equipment is one of those things which holds you back. And then back in the days, I think still today, the equipment, the brand new equipment is very expensive. And a lot of people, they cannot afford it simply because they cannot spend thousands and thousands of dollars on the gear to, kind of make their dream happen. But I think it's a learning process, right? Like when I moved to Canada and then I was able to purchase all the gear, I was able to do whatever, I want to go with. But I think the learning was one of the things which was kind of big limitation for me, because we kind of think we know, but we really don't. And the process of learning takes a lot of time. For some people, it's a different story. For me, was a long journey. And I don't think you can learn some of those things basically out of books or tutorials. You have to put practice into it, and that's how you train your eye, how you train your mind, how you basically make the progress, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the biggest limitation nowadays. It's just education and then and being practical and making sure you understand the process, because as soon as you get there, you can really kind of push this on another level, right? And I think we're living in amazing times that we have access to all of those things. Like back in the days, there's no photography workshops, there is no YouTube, there's no all those sources where you can get access to and then learn from it. We have to basically learn those things or on our own mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's usually took a lot of time.
Well, you talked about utilizing resources and getting started, because a lot of people, like you said, don't have the money to get started in photography because it is an expensive career. It's an expensive hobby even. But I'm going to go back, like, for example, when I was wanting to start my screen printing business. This is a good example because it coincides with starting with nothing. And so what I did was I called some screen printers and I said, hey, what do you charge your customer? Can I get a discount? And so what I did was I got the customer, I got the screen printer, I put them together, and I got my cut. So that's how I started in screen printing. I was able to build my customer base through other people, and then I was able to afford my equipment. And I think that coincides with photography as well. You can call other photographers and contract that out as well. Make your money, buy your equipment, learn from them if you have to. And that's a key component into building something that you're passionate about, whether it be screen printing or photography or whatever. I think that's a huge opportunity to utilize the resources that you have available to you, being your phone. Your phone is your primary resource. Start calling people, start making some money. What are some of the habits that you do on a regular basis right now that you think, what are some of the habits that you do on a regular basis that you feel contribute to the success of your photography?
So I definitely have to say that I work hard. That, I would say, success, if we can call it success, it's been a lot of long hours of work, and then keep pushing yourself, pushing what I do, and it's something that you have to make a habit to kind of work long hours. The success doesn't come just because you have idea or you think you can get somewhere. So I can give you my rundown. Like I'm waking up every single morning at 4:00 a.m. This is when I'm starting my day. Usually I retouch for couple hours, pushing content through social media. This is my kind of starting point. Then when this is done, then I get on my phone and talk to my clients, dealing with the things which are kind of related into my business, and then scheduling the shoots, planning everything. Then usually afternoon I have shoots scheduled, so I shoot between 1 and 5. Then basically get back home, dinner, 10 o'clock, I'm in bed, and this is like basically 7 days a week. And it doesn't matter, it's a Sunday, I don't have those days where I sleep in and kind of do nothing. Every day is a constant push. So that's kind of one of the habits what I have, that I put a lot of hours into what I do. Plus I plan everything, I schedule everything. I want to make sure I'm on the top of everything, right? Plus, not to mention, I'm trying to squeeze in time to educate myself, to read books, to reach out to some other resources where I can learn something from it. So this is how my life, right? This is how this whole thing.
Well, you're balancing. It seems like you're balancing your work, your personal life, all the components in your life. As long as they're balanced, I think that is an overall success. If you can balance your career and have the personal time with your family, that's paramount.
The planning, scheduling, and making sure you have the day fulfilled with the things which are right to do, because I know we are quite distracted nowadays through social media, through television, through different shows, and like I don't even have a cable at home. Like I just cut this whole thing down, because I know if I would get hooked on some TV series or something, like I would waste hours and hours on doing that, right? So
stop binge watching Netflix is what you're telling me.
I'm not saying stop watching it, but like it's your choice, right?
Because no doubt.
Start kind of adding stuff up, like it just takes a lot of your time. Mm-hmm. People waste time on a lot of different things. Scrolling through social media, this is another thing. People, like, if you kind of start analyzing how much time we waste on looking at things which pretty much don't matter, this is something which you can kind of use this time to do something, I would say, important, or something which is going to benefit you for the long run, right? So you just keep fighting with all this distraction. This is how I think that our life looks like nowadays, and making sure you can somehow handle this and make sure you can in control. That's what's going to make a difference, right?
Well, definitely it's a race, and
yes,
as long as you're consistent and you're moving forward and you're not stopping to binge watch Netflix, like you said, then it's easy to become complacent, and you get complacent with what you're doing, but you have to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing, because there's going to be somebody else who's pushing harder, and
yes.
So being able to be focused, have a regimen, have a plan, a goal, a vision. That's all important, and as to where you're going, knowing where you're going anyways.
Yeah. And there's not also sometimes about, because this is what a lot of people, I think, misunderstand, that we have a goals. I think it's not about the goals, it's about the journey itself. That's what it's important, right? Like how we can get there somewhere, but the final, I would say, goal, it's unreachable. Like there's always, because this goal is getting away and away, right? Because a lot of people telling me like, oh, I would like to be where you're at right now. But it's like, I don't want to be here. And what I mean is, like, I have another goals, and I have another, I would say, vision where I want to get. So it's about the journey, how we can speed up the process, how we can make this journey interesting, how we can kind of reach out this goal. And the more we're getting closer, this goal is kind of getting away or further away, right? And that's how
reach for the stars, get to the moon. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you're getting to the
Reach for
moon,
the
and then you
stars,
want to
get
get
to
out
the
of
moon.
when you get there, you want to be getting to the sun, right? Or
Yeah, there you go.
further away. So I think that's what it's extremely important nowadays. That people should focus more on the journey itself, how they can make the journey work better than just the goal itself. Because reaching the goal is the one thing, right? But
All right. So, you talk about your habits, what you've been doing. Is there, I know you've been on social media. You said you were on social media, you're on Facebook, you're doing all these things to get yourself branded. And I just want to know, is there a certain type of program or is there a software that you're using to facilitate your photography?
actually, well, basically, the software I'm using for my photography is a Photoshop. I don't use any software with scheduling my social media. I put everything on my own. Like I think you have to be also kind of careful about all this automatization of your social media, because like I think I tried a few years ago pushing some content through, preparing the content for the week and then have this software kind of controlling this whole thing. But I wasn't happy because I still have to go and check it, because there was a lot of flukes along the way that was posted the wrong way, or there's some mistakes or some errors. So what I'm trying to do is I have the time, or I'm scheduling the time where I'm basically have everything ready, and I just kind of do this quickly, and I post everything what I have to post, and this is pretty much done. And then once in a while, I'm just kind of jumping in to make sure to respond to the comments, response to, I don't know, questions or messages, whatever, right? So we're living on social media. Like when you really think about it, it's a huge part of what we do. I'm trying my best to don't waste time there and don't kind of get involved in, I would say, arguments and comment on stupid things or watch things which they don't bring any value to what I do. So it's a little bit of kind of training on your own which direction you want to kind of go. But the social media is really tricky. They're created so the way that the company which runs those social medias, they want you to spend as much time as possible there, right? But I think we need to somehow be in control, that you don't want to spend hours and hours on searching for things which they said they don't bring you anything valuable. So my approach is I want to create value for other people and push it through the social media, right? That's my approach.
So you're in a position right now where you're educating other people, and I know people are continually asking you what you're using to shoot. Have you had the opportunity to be part of some affiliate programs or creating a new stream of revenue through like Amazon or Adorama or one of those companies where you're able to get commission based off of your referrals?
So I don't do that at this point. Well, basically I'm offering, so there's three types of educations. I do workshops where I basically go to certain cities and places where I run those 2 days workshops. I started pushing a little bit more towards online courses where I'm going to be creating those specific courses which going to help people to understand the process. And the last thing I do, online education, where I just teach one-on-one, right? Where I have students, and I have quite a bit of them for people who basically they living in different countries or places where I can't go. So that's where we teach one-on-one online. So those are three approaches. Plus, I'm trying to also be helpful on social media. But those questions when it comes to the gear and lighting, I think they're gonna keep coming till I die. This is never gonna change. This is something that it's just a part of what we do, and
exactly.
That also tells me on kind of what kind of level these people are, right? Because if someone asking about what camera you're using to get that picture, they really don't understand the process, because it's not only the camera, it's just the lighting, it's the makeup, is
There's a lot more
so there's
involved.
entire
Definitely a
complex
lot more
process which takes you to create that image, and gear is only one little thing which gets you closer to where you want to get with this image, right? So but it's what it is, right? I don't mind asking this whole thing for 1,000,000 times.
I know I've asked it before.
and I'm sure, as I said, this is never going to go away. Yeah. That's the way I think.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for coming on The Creative Entrepreneur. I'm really excited that you had the opportunity to come on, and you're one of my biggest. I'm a huge fan of yours, and continually follow you on Facebook and see all your posts. I know I don't comment on every single one of them, but I love them. And I like seeing the posts that or the comments that other people are leaving, because I remember back when I was first starting out with headshots, and I was like, man, I was asking the same questions. That's so crazy. But I really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you so much.
Great opportunity for us to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? Before we go, how can people get a hold of you?
So they can go, they can find me on all social media. They can find me on my website, which is my name and my last name. Instagram, Facebook. I think the biggest group which I'm very involved is mentorship with Rafal Wegiel. So this is like my main source of pushing my content there. But then from that, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Twitter, you can go to YouTube. They can go to all those places, and now I'm there.
Awesome. Super excited. I'm glad to see that you came on, and I look forward to seeing more of your photography.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you go, guys. Rafal Wegiel. Remember, you don't have to purchase expensive equipment to produce amazing photography. So go out there, learn your craft, get educated, go out there and practice. Start out by buying some used equipment, and then build your business from there. So thank you for supporting this channel. Please subscribe. Thank you for listening. And remember, keep on keeping on.
Thank you for listening to The Creative Entrepreneur. Please click the show notes for additional information. Want to know more? Click on the subscribe button and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by visiting us at tcepodcast.net.